Hey everyone, if you're an educator, generative AI is probably the elephant in the classroom, right? But instead of just focusing on the fear of cheating, what if we actually built a playbook, a way to turn this thing into a really powerful learning tool? Let's dive in.
Okay, before we can write a single rule about a new tool like AI, we have to ground ourselves in our core mission. So, let's start with the most fundamental question there is. What is the whole point of education anyway?
Yep, it's really that simple. It's not about getting grades, it's not about checking off assignments, it's about truly learning. Every single policy, every principle we're about to talk about has to serve this one single goal. This is our true north.
Okay, so with our purpose crystal clear, we can face this AI dilemma head on. Our students are already using it, let's be honest. So the real question isn't if we should engage with it, but how. How do we do it responsibly so it actually helps learning?
So, where do we even start? Well, you don't start with a giant, scary list of rules. You start with an ethical compass, the guiding principles that are going to help us navigate this, no matter how much the technology changes.
And our compass, it's built on three essential pillars. First, human agency and oversight. Second, a big one, privacy and data security. And third, something we all know well, academic integrity and transparency. These three ideas, they're going to be the bedrock of any solid AI policy you create.
Let's break down that first pillar, human agency. All this means is that the student has to stay in the driver's seat. AI can be an amazing co-pilot, for sure. It can suggest routes, check the blind spots, but it should never, ever replace the core process of human thought. The bottom line, the final work, has to be the students.
Next up, privacy. And listen, this one is completely non-negotiable. Public AI models, they learn from whatever data you feed them. So we have to teach our students one simple golden rule. Never, ever input personally identifiable information into these tools. This isn't just an AI rule, it's fundamental digital citizenship.
So when we say personally identifiable information, what does that actually mean? This slide breaks it down pretty well. You've got your direct identifiers, things like a name or email that can identify someone all on their own. But then you have indirect identifiers like a birth date or a gender, which might seem harmless but can identify a person when you combine them with other data. It's so important we protect both.
And that brings us to our third pillar, academic integrity. Let's just be super clear about this. Using an AI to generate work and then turning it in as your own is plagiarism, period. It's really no different than copying a chapter out of a book. The tool is new, but the principle of honesty, that hasn't changed one bit.
Now, this brings us to a really specific kind of plagiarism called patch writing. You've probably seen this before. It's when someone takes a chunk of text from a source, in this case an AI, and just changes a few words here and there to make it sound original. It's a huge temptation with these tools, and we have to make it clear to students that this is still a major violation of academic integrity.
All right, so our ethical compass is set, we've got the why figured out. Now let's get practical and start designing the how, a real AI policy that you can actually use in your classroom.
A really effective AI policy has three key ingredients. First, it has to be course-specific. What works for a creative writing class is not going to work for a chemistry lab. Second, it should be collaborative. Get input from students, parents, other teachers. And finally, it has to be evolving. This tech is moving at lightning speed, and our policies need to be flexible enough to keep up.
So here's the million-dollar question, right? How do we actually encourage honesty? Because let's be real. AI detectors are unreliable, and we can't be looking over every student's shoulder. The answer isn't about policing. It's about transparency.
The solution is a mandatory disclosure policy. A statement like this one makes it absolutely clear. Using AI isn't the crime, hiding it is. See how that shifts the whole conversation? We move from trying to catch cheaters to teaching responsible ethical use. It's all about authentic learning.
So what does this disclosure thing actually look like? Well, it can be super simple. Just a quick note like, hey, I used ChatGPT to brainstorm some ideas, but I wrote everything myself. Or for more formal stuff, you can have students use a standard citation style like APA or MLA. The point is, it's clear, it's honest, and it's on the record.
Okay, so we've got a policy framework, but now we need a tool to apply it to our everyday assignments. And this is where the AI assessment scale, or AIAS, comes into play. Think of it as the toolkit that bridges the gap between your big policy and your daily lessons.
The whole point of the AIAS is to give us some nuance. You know, the conversation around AI in schools is so often just this black and white, ban it or allow it debate. This framework helps us move way beyond that false choice.
giving both teachers and students a clear, shared language for exactly how AI can and cannot be used for a specific task. So let's look at how this scale works. It's a spectrum. At level 0, it's no AI at all. Perfect for, say, a quiz testing basic knowledge. At level 1, AI is a brainstorming partner. At level 2, it can be an editor. And by the time you get to levels 3 and 4, it becomes a much more integrated copilot. And notice, every single level, except 0, has a specific disclosure requirement. It all ties back to that policy of transparency.
Okay, quick pop quiz. Let's put this into practice. For a simple biology multiple choice quiz that's just testing recall, what AIS level would you pick? If you said level 0, you got it. The tool always has to match the learning objective. It's that simple.
Okay, we've got our ethics, we have our policy framework, and we have our scale. So in this final section, let's bring it all home and look at a concrete, real-world example of what a classroom AI policy looks like in action.
Let's imagine a policy for a 9th grade English class. What I want you to notice here is how it's specifically tailored to the goals of that course. Things like developing a student's own unique voice, their critical thinking, and their creativity.
And look how specific a good policy is. The teacher has spelled out exactly how AI can be used as a support tool, like for brainstorming visuals or double-checking citations. These are all tasks that support the real work without actually doing it for the student.
And just as important, the policy is crystal clear about what is prohibited. It explicitly says that using AI to do the heavy lifting, the actual writing and analysis, is academic misconduct. There's no gray area. Students know exactly where the line is, and that actually empowers them to use the tool responsibly on the right side of that line.
So here's the real takeaway. We've moved from fear to a framework. We have our ethical compass, we have a policy blueprint, and we have practical tools. The playbook is ready to go. So the only real question left is, how are you going to adapt these tools to empower learning in your classroom?